morning, everybody. Welcome to our active language chat about our summer courses. Check everybody's coming in. There you go. Okay, so good morning. Just a quick reminder, we've decided to live stream this to Facebook as well, so that if there's anyone who hasn't had a chance to register for the webinar and they've got some questions, then they can join us via Facebook. Obviously, for those of you that have registered, you get your €100 discount if you take one of our summer 2020 CertTESOL courses this year. And there are no certificates for this session because it's informational as opposed to a developmental training session. Okay. So to start off, I'm going to introduce you to two of my favourite people, Danny Jones and Simon Perlman, and they are the founding partners of Active Language. So first of all, Danny, tell us something about yourself.
Hello everybody, so my name's Danny and I'm the Director of Teacher Training here at Active. I've been teaching for over 20 years, and over those years I worked in Turkey, in Costa Rica, London, finally settling in Cadiz, this lovely corner of Spain, where I run the training courses.
Excellent, thank you. And Simon, tell us about yourself.
Hi, good morning everybody. I think for me now the most interesting thing to think about is about teaching and about the love of teaching. I've been teaching for over 20 years. It's something that's given me huge amounts of pleasure, continues to do so. I feel extremely lucky to be able to work in different parts of the world, and I think that that's really what makes things special for me. We can all choose all sorts of different careers, and mine is in EFL, and it provides huge amounts of joy.
Fantastic, excellent. So today this summer we're launching both a fully online CertTESOL course and also a blended CertTESOL course. Those two courses both run for 11 weeks. And with the blended course, you would do 9 weeks online, followed by 2 weeks in Cadiz. So I know you guys have really made a home for yourselves in Cadiz, and I certainly have in the next town over, San Fernando. So tell us more about Cadiz, Simon.
Well, Cadiz is one of my favourite subjects. I could bang on about Cadiz for hours, but I've been told not to, so I shan't. It is a beautiful corner of Spain, tucked away towards the bottom corner, if you've seen any maps of it. It's completely surrounded by the sea, and it has this very gentle, laid-back vibe, but there's still a buzz in the city as well. It's a bustly port city, but a relaxed place to be, a very safe place to be. And it's somewhere that I've chosen to make home for the last, crikey, I've been here now for probably 15, 16 years, something like that. And it really is a joy of a place to visit or indeed to live in.
Fantastic. So you mentioned that you guys have been in Cadiz for about 15 years. Danny, how long has Active Language been running the CertTESOL course?
Pretty much for that time. Okay, we've been running courses since 2004. So the Trinity CertTESOL is the one we run. It's kind of one of two internationally recognised teacher education qualifications. So over the years, we've trained tons of amazing teachers, and it's very interesting now that as we've been in it for so long, to kind of see what they go on to do and the careers that they develop, and people go off in very, very different directions, really. So that's it's very rewarding, really. We also started running the diploma in the Trinity diploma in TESOL in 2013, which is the kind of the next qualification up. So a good about 15 years we've been running the courses.
Fantastic. And Simon, what would you say is the active language approach to teacher training?
Oh, I think that's an interesting question about our approach. I think the thing that the feedback that we get from people who've done the courses with us is perhaps an interesting place to start with this. People always talk about the quality of the team, their knowledge, their passion, their dedication, their care, and I think what's really important is that as a group, it's a small team, and we're a team of experienced professionals who really care deeply about everybody's development through the courses. It's not just about a machine that people come and go. No, we try and stay connected to people. We're available long term. I think that's really important that there's the support there that's before, whether it's through yourself, T, or me, or whoever, or Danny, during the course with the tutors and after the course as well. It's really important that there's those things there in place. One of the things that people talk about is how much they learn and develop, no matter what sort of teaching background people come from. So people can have very little experience or none at all, and the learning curve is very steep. And then, of course, some people come to the course with significant experience. We've had deputy head teachers on the course who've worked in primary schools, and they've just been amazed at how much they've learned and developed over the time. I think that's because of the way that we approach things, thinking about each person as an individual and what they can take from the course and what they'll get from the course. Each person matters, and I think our main aim is to pass on our love of teaching. Our years of experience and the joy that I was talking about before, we can pass on that love of teaching to people who are starting their careers or taking the next step in their journey, and that feels really important.
Yep, absolutely. So I guess, Danny, one of the questions, what we're really here for is, what is the CertTESOL, the Trinity Certificate in TESOL?
Okay, so it's an initial training course, as I mentioned earlier, for anyone who wants to get involved in teaching English as a foreign language. There are only 2 internationally recognised qualifications. And the Trinity CertTESOL, which we offer, basically gives a kind of a broad knowledge of all of the different areas of English language teaching, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So we're looking at the teaching, which is an integral part of the course, but then also information about the language systems, ways of teaching, reading lessons, methodologies of teaching English, and so on. So it kind of covers the whole area. It's rated at, in UK terms, it's a level 5 qualification. Okay, so in terms of the qualification, that means it's an entry into any reputable teaching job. They'd be looking for a level 5 qualification. In terms of giving you a little bit more detail, I'm just going to give, T and I are going to give a kind of a brief overview of the different parts of the course. So it's made up of five units or 5 parts. Unit 1 is teaching skills. T, I'd like you to share your ideas on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, as Danny just said, that really is the integral part of the course. I mean, for us as well, it is the heart of the CertTESOL, being in the classroom, getting to know the learners, developing your teaching skills, both in terms of planning and delivery and reflection, is what it's really all about. So over the course, you teach a minimum of 6 hours of assessed, observed lessons. So you'll be with your tutor. You have 2 tutors during the course. And so they'll be watching you teach throughout the 5 weeks if you're with us face to face, or over the 11 weeks if you're on the online or blended course. It's also important that you learn from your peers. So whilst your peers are teaching, you'll be observing them. You have guided observation tasks, focusing on different aspects, maybe classroom management, maybe thinking about the materials they're using, or for instance, how their teacher talk is. And also as a part of the teaching practice, you have to do some guided observations of experienced teachers. So you'll do 2 observations where you'll see your tutors teaching the 2 different levels that you'll work with during the course. And then there's also a couple of video observations of other experienced teachers to give you a taste of different teaching styles and things like that. Yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours about all the different parts of the course. If you do have any questions, do jot them down in the chat. I'm kind of keeping an eye on the chat here in Zoom and on Facebook. And so, you know, we'll give you a quick overview and then we can focus on any specifics if anyone has any questions. So now I'm going to pass back to Danny to talk about Unit 2 of the CertTESOL.
Yeah, the Unit 2 is the language awareness unit. So that's when you learn a very wide but detailed summary of the different systems of the English language. So mainly looking at grammar systems, looking at phonology, and looking at vocabulary and how they all work. Everything that you learn about in your sessions on language will then feed into your teaching skills. So everything that you do through these units feeds into what you do in the classroom. So they kind of work along side by side. Yeah, so that's the, also the other thing that it's kind of a look at everything in terms of language, but we can, if people want more information, we can point you in the right direction in terms of websites to look at, grammar books to read, if people want to improve in those areas. Okay, over to you, T, for Unit 3.
Yep, so back to me, we're kind of double teaming our way through this episode here. So Unit 3 is a unit called the Learner Profile. As Danny mentioned before, there are 2 accredited internationally recognized certificates, and the CertTESOL, the Trinity course, is unique in that it offers this learner profile assignment. So during the course, you spend time with one individual learner to produce both a needs analysis and then also to plan a series of lessons for them and to teach one of those lessons. So as well as having experience teaching groups of students, you also get this experience of teaching one-to-one on the course as well. And what this enables you to do, as well as reflecting on the differences between those different types of teaching styles, it lets you think as well about the process of doing a needs analysis in such detail. Obviously, it's something that we do every day when we're in the class with our students and we're thinking, oh, you know, this person needs a little bit of help here, this person is strong in this area. But actually spending that time to do such a thorough, detailed analysis really helps you see the background to that kind of work. Okay. Right, I'm going to pass back over to Danny for Unit 4.
So Unit 4 is called the materials assignment, and it's the one that's kind of most specifically linked to your teaching practice, because what you do in a nutshell is you create a piece of material for the class that you're teaching. And you base that on what they need, the help, you know, whatever linguistic help they need. You use it in the classroom and then you evaluate it afterwards. So part of, within the teaching practice, you spend a lot of time reflecting on your own teaching. And with the materials assignment, you reflect on the kind of materials that you produce to use in the classroom. So it very much kind of joins those dots. And it can be incredibly helpful. People tend to learn a lot. So I like that one a lot. Over to T.
Yep. So, in fact, the final unit of the CertTESOL is the one that on our course we complete first. It's called the Unknown Language Journal. And again, it's unique on the Trinity CertTESOL in that you are required to spend 4 hours learning a new language. So in the past, we've had Finnish, we've had Korean, Welsh, Greek, Polish, Irish. We've had quite a range of languages on the course. And it's often the most memorable part of the course for a lot of the trainees. Week 5, they can still remember how to order a glass of wine in the language that they've chosen. And even years later, they'll always remember that one phrase. So it's a really lovely experience. And I think the fact that it kind of throws everyone in at the deep end. As Simon mentioned before, we get teachers, we get people coming with varying levels of experience. Some have been teaching before, some have years of experience. Whereas actually this being a student again and being an absolute beginner is a really nice way to level the playing a little. And what this assignment does is that it allows you to focus on the learning process. So it puts you in the shoes of your learners, if you ever teach absolute beginners, but it also lets you see the tools and the techniques that the teacher uses when you're teaching in an environment where you're not using the student's L1. So for example, during the course, whoever the Unknown Language Journal teacher is, they don't use English during the lessons. So it gives you that chance to experience the, like I say, the tools and the techniques, the gestures, the looks, the things that they do to help convey meaning and to give instructions and things like that. Okay, so that was kind of the Trinity CertTESOL in a nutshell. I'm going to pass back to Simon now to kind of tell us more about why do it?
Thanks, T, and thanks, Danny. Yeah, one of my roles around the CertTESOL and the diploma as well is to help people with careers advice. I'm also the director of our language school here, and I see hundreds of CVs every year, and I really enjoy my role to help to guide people through it. And the T's question was, why do the course? I think the key word is about employability here, really. So many different people take our courses. We've already talked about that. People looking for something new in their life, people already living abroad or thinking about moving abroad and how they're going to sustain themselves, people who've learned English as a second language or a third language maybe, and want to get involved in teaching it. Other people come with significant experience. Auxiliares de conversación, for example, is a route where people come into teaching and they come and take a course with us. People who have experience but perhaps not the right qualifications, or people with different qualifications. And I think that this is where we get really to the nub of it. This is a qualification. The Trinity CertTESOL is a qualification that's internationally recognised and accredited by Trinity College. It's been going for 40 years, I believe. And with the teaching practice element, which T and Dan have already talked about, it really creates and has a very well-known name around the world. The guided, observed and assessed teaching practices is really the heart of the course. It's a serious course. It's a serious course that requires a significant commitment in terms of time and energy and money as well. There's a big financial commitment involved. But everybody who finishes the course feels like they've accomplished something big and worthwhile. And in terms of employability, it really is one of the two really well-known and very well thought of courses around the world. I'm very aware that people will come with all sorts of people. There's all sorts of courses available online and around the world in all sorts of different ways. Some of them are fantastic, of course, and some of them will really help you and really prepare you. But in terms of accessing a good job, then having a good qualification is really, really important, as well as having the confidence in your teaching, that you know what you're doing. People come to us having done different courses, and they either lack the confidence in the classroom, or importantly, they're not getting access to the sort of work that they're really looking for. Especially now, it's become really clear what is a good school and a bad school. Which schools will look after their teachers, especially in a time of crisis, and which schools won't. But beyond COVID-19, I think it's important to think beyond it as well. A good school is one that will support you. A good school, as teachers, we never stop learning. We never stop developing. And a good school will encourage that. And having a good qualification is a passport into a good school. Graduates from our course generally have no problem finding work after the course, wherever they want to be around the world, whether it's in Spain, here in Spain in Cadiz, in Andalusia, or whether it's throughout Spain or wherever in the world. With this course behind you, you will have no problems finding work. One of the things I particularly enjoy, we've been running these courses now for a long time, is the network of graduates that are all over the world. We're always able to match people up and to put people in contact with other people who are in that situation. They may have qualified with us a year ago, 2 years ago, 5, 10, whatever. And there is still this community. Learning English continues to be really important. And actually, especially in times of uncertainty, as we're moving into possibly a global recession, although I'm no economics expert, it really feels like, and based on historical evidence, we can see that in times of financial difficulty, actually training and education is where people invest. And one of the things they invest in is language learning. So if they're not working at the moment, then they will be training, gaining new skills in order to be even more employable as things emerge out of recession or out of the crises around the world. And there's also a huge market in teaching children and teenagers, both online and in the classroom. The careers service, which I'm largely responsible for, is there not to find people work, but to help you find work. We don't guarantee you a job. I would advise people to be very careful of any course that guarantees you a job afterwards. Often those jobs are guaranteed because nobody else wants to do them. There may be a reason for that. But our job is to help you find the best possible job, or part of my job is to help you find the best possible role within EFL as you can do. Whether that be working in a language school, which is sort of the traditional model, whether it's working online, or whether it's increasingly people are working with a mixture of these, of different ways of working as well. Life as an English teacher, as I said before, it's given me so much joy, it continues to do so. It can be a really exciting job. We can live and work anywhere in the world, which is fab. It's rewarding. It's a deeply human act. Teaching people, connecting with people is a thing of most often of great joy and great beauty. And for me as well, I live here in Spain. I'm obviously not Spanish, and it's allowed me an access into the community which I wouldn't have otherwise have had. Being part of a school is being part of a community, and that's delightful. So exciting, rewarding, yes, and also sustainable. Now, I should say, very few people get rich out of EFL. We've been doing it for many years, and it's not something we do to become wealthy. That would be really nice, but that's certainly not likely and not our aim either. It is a sustainable lifestyle, and there are ways of using it to support income or as your primary income. Salaries vary throughout the world. People can start their own businesses. Again, one of the things I'm keen on doing is supporting people as they open businesses, whether they be online or within, or starting their own language school. Been a number of people through the course who've then gone to work and then come back to us, come back to me to help them to give some advice around starting their own business or whatever. But the thing is that whatever we're doing at whatever level, we can live and work pretty much anywhere in the world. And that is a joyous thing. Back to that word joy again.
Yep. I mean, I originally kind of fell into teaching and thought, you know, oh, I could go anywhere in the world, and then came to San Fernando, Cadiz, and it's just so glorious here that I've decided to stay. But it does give you the opportunity to go anywhere in the world. So we've had some questions. And then interestingly, Simon, you mentioned kind of COVID-19. And before all this, there was another big buzzword in Europe, which was, of course, Brexit. So tell us more about kind of the what does that mean for the teaching industry, do you think?
Well, that's two big words there, I think. COVID-19, which I'll take as one, and Brexit being the other. Yeah, that's yeah, okay. Brexit is potentially a game changer. Potentially it will make things feel very different. We talk about different types of teachers, those people who speak English as their first language, and other people who've learned English as a second or third language. In different parts of the world, there is a bias towards, there is some bias still for teachers who have learned English as for whom it's their first language. I think it's really important as well to realise that just because someone speaks the language doesn't mean they're a good teacher. And in fact, some people who've learned the language as a second or third language can often be better teachers as they understand more deeply the problems the learners have. So one of my hopes, going back to the question, one of my hopes around Brexit, I'm very terribly sad about Brexit. I think it's a tragedy on a personal level, but I think it offers different opportunities for different groups of teachers to become more accepted within Europe and around the world. And I think that's a really positive thing. On a technical level, my understanding is we get our information from the British Embassy, and my understanding is that until December the 31st of this year, 2000, people from the UK is still welcome to come to Europe and can get their qualifications and can become an English teacher before the end of December, which will then give them the right to stay, certainly in the Spanish context, in Spain. Different countries will have different rules, but that's what in Spain. It's definitely not now or never. However, I think it's important to recognise that things may, and this is an important caveat, things may become more difficult after December. Strangely, nobody really knows. And getting back to the COVID-19 situation, the coronavirus situation, this is one of the reasons we've been given special dispensation by Trinity to run the course 100% online. But there's a few courses around the world that have the ability to do this, and it's the same for the CELTA course as well. Again, some of those courses are able to run 100% online. This is probably going to be a short-term situation. The teaching practice will still happen online, will still happen, and will still be the most important part of the course. The course remains the same. The course remains continues to have the integrity, the rigour, the demanding nature of it that it always has had. It will simply be online. We teach classes online increasingly now. In fact, the blended course that we offer is an interesting one because that then sort of combines the two. If people do the blended course, which I think is a beautiful innovation, then they can get experience working online, teaching online, receiving tuition online, and then come to Cadiz for 2 weeks, and then they'll get the classroom experience as well. So as we enter the next phase, one of the words that surrounds us all is around uncertainty. With a course, a blended course of this nature, you'll get experience both online, teaching online, learning online, as well as teaching and learning in a classroom. and that should make you even more employable moving forward. I'm sorry, T, I forget your original question. I think it was around...
All right, it was about Brexit. I think you've answered it. Because we've actually just had a question from Ariadna asking whether the fully online CertTESOL is just for the moment. On our website, we've publicised dates for all 3 courses, so for the fully online, for the blended, and for the face-to-face for next year as well. Just as a precaution, as Simon said, uncertainty is the key word here. Who knows what will happen in the future, so we're prepared to deal with a fully online course into 2021 as well. Danny, I'm going to hand over to you because you mentioned before about the CertTESOL being a level 5 qualification. What does that mean in terms of the course requirements? What do people need to be able to complete the course?
Okay, so for Trinity, they're kind of, they stipulate that in order to get onto the course, you require qualifications that would allow you to get into further education, okay, in order to be able to enter onto a degree course at a university, for example. So, for example, in a UK context, this would be A-levels. Trinity, however, are very flexible and have been very flexible over the years, because our profile of trainees over the years, we've had kind of a mix of people come to us to do the courses. We have people who have just finished university, or we have people who have maybe moved to Spain after a career in possibly in nursing or accounting or some other job, and they've moved here and started kind of again, and they've wanted to work. The great thing about Trinity is there is a flexibility in terms of accepting people's work experience. Okay, so in terms of what people, other skills that people have developed through their working life or through their life will be taken into account in terms of accepting people onto the course. Again, this is done, you know, we interview each person, we arrange either a face-to-face interview or a Skype interview or a phone interview, and all of these things are kind of discussed at that stage, because often people, if people haven't been down the traditional route, it doesn't mean you can't do the course at all, okay? A lot of, in terms of being able to do the course, you know, our job at the interview stage is really to make you very well aware of the intensity of the course, the requirements, the fact that you're going to have to do quite a lot of work. There's things like lesson planning, and that can be a worry occasionally for people who maybe haven't studied formally for a really long time. Okay, but we're here to guide people through that. But again, we're very aware, and it's really important for us at that initial stage to let people know that it will be intense and it's not a walk in the park. Okay, so the more that you put into a course, whether it's face-to-face, online or blended, the more you'll get out of it, as with anything in life, really, I suppose.
Very true, very true. We've had a question on Facebook about the difference between the CELTA and the Trinity certificate in TESOL.
Okay, so sorry,
That's right.
Yeah, basically the 2 courses that we referred to earlier on, 2 international courses, the Trinity CertTESOL and the CELTA, both at level 5. They're both the same, basically. They're just provided, they just have different providers. So Trinity College London, and then the CELTA, the Cambridge one. So they have the same content effectively. A couple of differences are that the Trinity CertTESOL has the unknown language, which T talked about earlier, is for 4 hours. It's a slightly bigger assignment, where you learn a language for 4 hours. and reflect on it, whereas on the CELTA you have an hour. Similarly, on the Trinity course, we have more sessions on the younger learners and the teens, okay? But they are effectively the same. And in terms of getting jobs, employers will be looking for that one or that one, okay?
We had a question as well from Dilly, but unfortunately I think he's left, and it was a question about bandwidth. So I'm gonna answer this one quickly to talk about the differences between the face-to-face, the fully online, and the blended. So our face-to-face course runs over 5 weeks in Cadiz, and I think intensity is definitely the word. It's a tough course, as Danny said, or Simon. It's not a walk in the park. This is a serious qualification to then enable you to teach anywhere in the world. And so be prepared to spend 5 weeks of your life in TESOL. One thing that's different about the Trinity CertTESOL in Cadiz is that we run it over 5 weeks, whereas most places run this course over 4. And part of the reason for that is to allow a 3-day weekend to give you more time to assimilate everything that you're learning over the course, but also to spend a bit of time enjoying Cadiz. You know, if you go somewhere exotic, as Cadiz is, you know, you want to spend a little bit of time enjoying a refreshing drink in a square or a walk along the beach. So having it over 5 weeks does allow for that. In contrast, the fully online course over 11 weeks, all the content is delivered online and all of the teaching practice is done online. Now, both the blended course, which is 9 weeks online followed by 2 weeks face-to-face, and the fully online course have a combination of synchronous and asynchronous content. So the asynchronous content is stuff that you can do throughout the week. It will involve watching videos, reading, doing assignments, etc. And then the synchronous content will be a combination of doing your teaching practice, which will take place at the same time each day over the 9 or 11 weeks. Also tutor chats, so allowing you some time to have contact with your tutor about the things that you've been learning during the week. And then also things like, a question that came up was whether the course is assessed. It is. And one of the assessments for, as Danny mentioned, Unit 2 is an exam. So the exam as well would take place during one of these synchronous slots where everybody joins us from all over the world. Oh, okay, so I think I've answered that one. So a question from Adriana, kind of leading on from that. How are the input sessions conducted? Yeah, so most of it is all done asynchronously if you're doing the blended or the fully online course, but with some tutor contact as well. There was another question. How many people passed the course? Simon?
Yeah, so that's a really important question. I think the bottom line is that almost everybody passes the course. The reasons for that are several. Perhaps the most important thing that we've already alluded to, already talked about a little bit, is the interview process. During the process, whether that's it could be with myself, with Danny or Teresa or one of the other tutors, during the process, we will talk about your strengths and weaknesses. We will find your strengths and weaknesses as we move through it. The interview has different elements all designed to take us through different parts and to really find out as much as we can about your motivations, about your knowledge, about your suitability. We don't want anybody to come on the course that we don't think has got a good chance of passing it. And I think that's really, really important. It comes back to something I was saying before about our responsibility, an ethical responsibility, really, about making sure that yes, the course is open to anybody, people who speak any languages, people who've got all sorts of different backgrounds. As Danny talked about earlier, you don't need to have a university degree to do the course. You don't need to be a native speaker, although I hate that expression so much, I've been avoiding it until now. You don't need to have English as your first language in order to do the course. You do need a good level of English. You do need the wherewithal to be able to engage with the academic processes. And our job is really to guide you every step of the way. So, how many people pass the course? Most people. The people that don't are people who have difficulty organising themselves, people who don't take on feedback from their tutors often. Our job is to help you. Our job is to guide you. If you look at the website, you look at the comments from the testimonials on the Facebook page, the testimonials from people who, especially around the tutors, around the help that we give, and we absolutely do that, both on all aspects of the course, around the face-to-face, the blended and the online things, courses. It's about us helping you through. Because of that, I think we've got a really good success rate.
Mm-hmm. And a question from Ariadna about the passes. So it is, you can pass with merit, or pass with distinction. Yeah. And Danny, did you want to add something?
That's exactly what I was just going to say, because I saw the question. Yeah, but similarly, yeah, on the same kind of ABC sliding scale, distinction, merit, and a pass. Yeah.
Excellent. And then there was a question, and we had it come in beforehand, but also we've had a question from Tanka on Facebook about preparation for the course. Danny, do you want to handle that one?
Yeah, so as well as there's the interview, which will be set up, and there's a fairly kind of complete interview to find out, as Simon said, your strengths, your weaknesses, have a chat about your kind of language history and so on. There's also some pre-reading to do. Okay, so the main course book, the main pre-reading book that we use is the CertTESOL Companion, which is by Jason Anderson, which we use because it really gives a very detailed description of what the course is. So if you can kind of absorb that information, you will come on the course knowing what each assignment will be, what the expectations are, and connected to that book, there's also a pre-course task. Okay, so before you come, you'll do a task, you'll send it back, and then that's a kind of Trinity requirement. There are also other books, the suggested books that we also, if you have an interview and you're offered a place, then there's also kind of suggested reading. But the CertTESOL Companion is the one that's required. Before
my copy here.
And it's looks like this. It's very comprehensive.
Just one thing to add, a lot of different people will be concerned about different elements of the course before they come to us and before they start the course. One of those things, especially for people who haven't learnt English, is around grammar and about language systems and structures. Again, some people choose to do some extra reading and some extra work before the course on those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something, as Simon mentioned before, this is a course for speakers of any language. And in fact, sometimes it's the people whose first language is English who struggle with some of the aspects of it, having not learned their language themselves in the way that other speakers do. We had a question from Donna. So if English is your first language, do you need to already speak a second language to take the course? And the answer is no. Obviously, it will give you experience as a learner, but no, you don't need to have a second language in order to be able to take the course. Any other questions? Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the CELTA and the CertTESOL. And I mean, Simon, you mentioned as well, there are a lot of courses out there. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, probably everybody's seen if you pop TEFL course into any search engine, you'll get a huge variety. things pop up on my feed and what have you, advertising a cert course for €20 or $20 and Groupon adverts for all sorts of things. I am absolutely not saying that everybody must do the Trinity CertTESOL. Definitely not. However, it is one of, as we talked about, one of two internationally recognised qualifications. There are many different paths into the profession, depending on what sort of job you want, the country you're going to, the sort of teaching you want to do. So absolutely, I think it's important for you to think about the sort of teaching you want to do, the sort of job you want to have, how you want to work. Again, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, and I'll do my absolute best to answer them without prejudice, and to try and help everybody as much as possible. But what you do need to make sure, if you're looking for a course, are a few basic things, I think. The first is about the track record of the place. There's different ways to get information about that. You can read reviews, see how long they've been running, get an idea of the organisation that validates them. Sometimes things look fantastic and you think, oh, that sounds brilliant. And it's only €100 or £100 or $100. And when you look at the website, it does look fantastic. And the reviews do seem to be great. But do check into these things. What is the validity behind the course, the track record? That's the first thing. The second thing is that I firmly believe that any course that doesn't involve real, guided, observed and assessed teaching practice is not worth doing. Unless, of course, you already have significant experience in the classroom, then there could be an argument for it. Even then, I think it's dubious. Any teaching qualification that doesn't require you to teach feels pretty strange to me. The analogy we use a lot is the driving license. If you're going to learn, you need to sit behind the wheel of a car in order to learn to drive. You can't just do it theoretically. And whether it's an online course, a blended course, whatever, teaching practice is really important. The word real is important as well, real teaching practice. There's lots of courses where teachers will teach each other, but they won't be teaching real students. And I think that's another vital element. Do your research carefully. Whether you're going to spend a lot of money or a little money, it's worth doing the right course. So that's the first two, was about just a moment. The third thing is about the support. The support that you'll be offered from the centre before, during, and especially perhaps after the course as well. You're not on your own when you finish the course. You get some level of support through there. So they're the three things, I think. Danny, what did you want to add?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add, which totally connected to that question really, is the career, is making EFL a career. I mean, I think doing a kind of online short course is good for a traveller teacher, or depending on what your needs are, but in terms of making a career out of it, doing a recognised qualification is very much worth it. After 2 or 3 years teaching, people often move on and do the Trinity Diploma in TESOL or the Delta, again, which kind of mirror each other, both level 7 qualifications. And then they can take people into teacher training, into working in further education, working in management. So these are the kind of career paths that are opened up once you move on to the kind of getting a recognised qualification. Those doors start opening, and the path is quite varied really as time goes on. That's all I wanted to add.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, well, so we talked kind of about comparison to other courses and mentioned the €20 Groupon TEFL qualification. Obviously, the Trinity CertTESOL is a little more expensive than €20. Simon, do you want to tell us about the price?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's about €1,500. And for that, this is a standard sort of price for this kind of course. It is, although it seems like a lot of money, it's an investment, and it's an investment in your professional career. When I started teaching, my first job was in Turkey back in '97, crikey, and I did my CertTESOL course, and it really, even, to be honest, I thought I was only going to do it for a year or two, but even then I definitely wanted to have a good course behind me in order to access the better jobs, in order to feel confident in my teaching. So yes, it's and that's one of the reasons why it's really important to do your research. It's really important to invest in these things. To me, it comes back to a question around respect, around respecting our students, around respecting the profession. You don't have to spend that amount of money. Of course you don't. There's different ways of doing it, but just be aware of all the options before you do it. People who come to us generally have done their research across the board and looked into all sorts of possibilities and end up with the CertTESOL, the Trinity CertTESOL, with us in Cadiz for a number of very good reasons. I like to think it's worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's so true about kind of having respect for your learners, for your students. You know, I mean, you wouldn't want to go to the doctors and be treated by someone who'd got his €20 Groupon certificate. So, I mean, Danny, one of the things about both of the accredited qualifications is the fact that they're externally moderated. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means, the validity of the course?
In terms of the CertTESOL, one of the units that we talked about earlier is externally assessed or moderated, if you like. That's the one when I talked about the material. So you create a material for your learners, and you use it and reflect on it. At the end of each course, we have a Trinity moderator come to the course, and their job is twofold, really. One is to do the evaluation, to have a chat with you about your materials. Okay, this added validity, having some external assessment on the course is very important. The other part of their job is to interview the participants on the course and to find out how the experience was. So did you do everything that you should have done? How was the organisation of the course? There's quite an in-depth chat with all of the participants, really to get feedback, and it's a great moment then for you to be able to give an honest review, an honest feedback to the people who ran the course, which then means that standards remain high and the highest possible, and that's really, really important. You know, it keeps everybody on their toes, and it's a great part of the process. I think both tutors and trainee teachers appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, and just to add that interview that you'll have with the group, with the moderator, that's not assessing you. That's really quality control to check that as a teaching course provider that we're doing everything that we should. So it's not a reflection on what you've learned. It's a reflection of what we've taught you throughout the 5 weeks or the 11 weeks.
And the other thing just to add there is, in preparation, as with all of the assignments on the course, you are very well prepared for each one. So with the materials assignment, you'll have an interview with the moderator, but we give you a very careful, thorough preparation so that when you go into this kind of external moment, you feel prepared, you know what's going to happen. Okay, that's one of the key things, is that reassurance, because I think in any situation, if people feel that they're being tested, it can be a bit nerve-wracking. So one of our strengths, I think, and also, you know, something that's very important to us as a group of trainers, is just to reassure people and make them feel fully prepared for everything. Okay.
Yep. We've had a question about a calendar or a schedule for the course starting in June. So our online course and blended course are both starting the 14th of June, Monday the 14th of June, running for 11 weeks.
Yeah.
We don't have a schedule that we release to the public. You'll get it in due course when you sign up for the course. But the anticipation is that the synchronous content, so the content when you'll be online with your peers, with your tutor, with your teaching practice learners, that at the moment we're anticipating will be approximately 6 o'clock in the evening, Spanish time. Obviously that depends partly on where we get trainees coming from. If we get lots of people coming from the other side of the world, then we'll make it earlier to accommodate them. But that is our plan at the moment. And then our face-to-face course, running for 5 weeks, starts on July the 27th.
4 days. Monday to Thursday, then with the 3 days kind of without contact hours.
Yeah, time to enjoy caddies. I think we've answered all the questions that we had. There was an interesting comment through the Facebook about a teacher who's connected from India, saying that they had problems getting their students to speak. And on the course, we use the communicative approach. Simon, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about that.
Brilliant. Great. Yes, the communicative approach is nothing unique to our centre. It's the approach that is taken by nearly all good certificate courses throughout the world, and diploma courses as well. It's based really on the fact that we should judge the lesson by what the learners do, rather than by what we do as the teacher. What are the students doing? Part of this is about helping students to communicate. It's a really lovely question to have towards the end of the session, actually. To help students to communicate, to help them to feel like they're able to use English, to make mistakes, to take risks. And the way we do it is very simple. If you've got a group of 10 students, you'll divide them into pairs or into small groups of 3 to enable them to talk about things. You'll set them up with a task, and we then as teachers will be moving around, we'll be listening, we'll be helping, we'll be writing down mistakes that people might make. We might be correcting people on the spot. And this is what I think of as being the art of teaching. We can program things, we can have our lesson plan, we can go through the stages and understand them, absolutely essential. And then on top of that, the art of teaching around knowing when to intervene, when to let people go. But the communicative methodology is all about helping students to be confident in using the language and giving them every opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm. And we also had a really interesting question on Facebook. It's kind of not really related to this. So I'm going to ask it, but we'll probably respond at a later date. It was from Tanka. What social psychological effects can be seen in learners at post-COVID situation? And how can we teachers help in lessening them to build up learning? I mean, I think it's such an interesting question, but perhaps a little too much to get into at the moment. But we will.
And also a little soon, because we're still at that stage when, you know, at least in Spain, kind of just creeping out of the kind of the phases. So I think months down the line, these effects will be seen. But yeah, I think it's something that will become clearer over the kind of next few months, I think.
Mm-hmm.
My feeling is that as teachers, we have the opportunity to talk about things in the classroom. That's an interesting thing to think about. And also perhaps to not talk about them in the classroom as well. I think it really depends on our learners. We need to be really sensitive to our learners. We're teaching classes online through the language school here. And we're teaching children, teenagers and adults. And yeah, some of them are really into talking about how they're feeling about the situation. And others just want to talk about really anything other than that. So as we move through, I think it's like always, it's about being sensitive to your learners, about thinking about what they need and what they want.
Yep. Just to clarify timetabling, the difference between the online and blended and face-to-face. So as Danny mentioned, the face-to-face course is Monday to Thursday, and you can expect to be in the school from about 9 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock in the afternoon, with about an hour for lunch. So it's pretty full on for those 4 days, and then your 3-day weekend. And then for the online and the blended, from Monday to Friday, you can expect to be online doing things synchronously all together for about an hour and a half a day. And that's because obviously you need to be online doing your teaching practice, observing your peers, etc. So although it is an online course, there's a requirement for you to be available at a certain point every day in order to meet the course requirement. Oh.
And sorry, one last question on that. How much time, Danny and T, you're more involved in these things than I am. How much time do you think people can expect to be working every day? The question from Ariadne, I think, is a good one around about how much time people need in terms of planning things. Is it something that they need to do? They can do alongside other things in their lives, or is it they need to dedicate time solely to that? How does it work?
I think there's it just kind of takes me a little bit to the way that we kind of talk about this on the face-to-face course. So similarly on this kind of course, it'll be about at the very, very beginning, talking to participants about how they're going to organize their time. So when people are here for 5 weeks, we say, Harry, think about this, it's really important. It will be less stressful if you can organize when you're going to be doing work. Similarly with this, obviously you won't be physically, in the school for this many hours a day. As T said, there's the synchronous time, which was likely to be in the evening. Again, that depends on who we have. And that's the requirement that you're there. There will be a requirement to watch the sessions that are for that week, and you may choose to watch one each day or 2 each day or save them for the weekend. But I think that will be a very individual choice depending on your life situation. The key thing is that you'll be able to get through that work, because that will then inform your teaching. Okay, so it'll be very important not to get behind. So I think T, when we talked about it, we were saying in terms of per week, we were looking at about, was it about 12?
About 12, because it's a 120-hour course minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you can expect to be spending about 12 hours a week working, either doing the synchronous content, which is about 7 hours worth, or doing the asynchronous content.
Or planning lessons.
Yeah. Planning lessons, that will be happening every week. When it's time for assignments, you might find you're a bit busier. But when you get the schedule, as Danny said at the beginning of the course, you'll know exactly when everything needs to be handed in, what your deadlines are, and so you can plan your time more effectively from the start.
And the important thing as well is that the input, so a lot of the sessions which are asynchronous, you'll be watching them and you'll be working through them, but they're not assessed. The things that will be assessed are the assignments, and you'll be given deadlines for them, but the actual work that you're doing, you'll be watching them, but you're not assessed on every session that you attend, as it were. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, well, I don't know if anybody has any other questions. Simon, Danny, anything else to add?
Not really.
Not really.
I'd just like to just go back to this word joy, which is my favourite word of the day. Teaching English is a fantastic way to engage with the world. Having having a good quality certificate behind you is the gateway into that. So yeah, great. Good luck. Thanks everyone for coming. Hope to see you soon.
Yeah. What he said.
What he said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been lovely kind of giving you all the information about it. So maybe see some of you at some point soon.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, everyone. We will be posting the recording of this both to our Facebook page and to our YouTube channel, and I'll include the links there to the website and also to the Trinity College page so that you can read more about the qualification itself, and then a link to our website so you can read more about us. Okay, well, thank you very much and have a wonderful day, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.